Now we will go for the relation of the flexor digitorum profundus. In our last class we had finished the relation of the flexor digitorum profundus in front. But now we have to go to the relation of the flexor digitorum profundus behind. Behind the flexor digitorum profundus is related to the anterior surface of ulna. Apart from that, it is also related to partially the interosseous membrane, and it is also related to that of the anterior portion of medial epicondyle of the lower end of the bone humerus. From this thing will be the water relation. Now at the point in the lower 1/3 at the level of wrist, it is related to pronator quadratus and the water anterior surface of the lower end of the ulna, that will be related. But as it descends further in the hand at the level of the water insertion, this you can say flexor digitorum profundus, it is related to the basis of distal phalanx of the respective fingers. Apart from that, it is also related to the anterior surface of carpal bones, metacarpal bones, and the what phalanges all. Then their respective joints, such as wrist joint, intercarpal joints, carpometacarpal joints, and the interphalangeal joint, as because they will be crossing. So this is what the relations. Now this you can say flexor digitorum profundus. After having had this relation, now let us will see what this flexor digitorum profundus is supplied by. The flexor digitorum profundus is supplied by partially the ulnar nerve and remaining part it will be supplied by the what? Median nerve via the anterior interosseous nerve. So this is what the nerve supply. So as because this muscle will be having this nerve supply by two things, it may be called as a what? Mixed muscle or hybrid muscle. Like that, there will be a hybrid muscle one in the what arm, which is said to be as a what? Brachialis, because it is supplied by the water that of the musculocutaneous nerve and also by the additional filament of the radial nerve there in the arm. So this will be the what thing. With having a root values for this, which will be going to form the water that of the C5, C6 and C7. So that will be the things it will be going to come into the. Now what is the action of this flexor digitorum profundus? Flexor digitorum profundus, it does the what action of the what flexion of the wrist, then flexion of the intercarpals, flexion of the what metacarpophalangeals, and then flexion of the carpometacarpal and the flexion of the what interphalangeal joint. Apart from that, it also does the what, or it assists in the what, it will be going to take a water with that hand in hand with the muscle which will be supplied by that ulnar nerve. So as because that innervation will be there, so with that this is a thing. Now so action is over. Now let us will see about what you will be going to get the water that of the your flexor pollicis longus. Flexor pollicis longus is the next muscle which will be present in the what? Deep flexor compartment of the forearm. Now this flexor pollicis longus, it is solely acting on the entirely on the thumb. So this muscle which will be there, it will be going to take origin from that of the one deep fascia of the water, that of the forearm, and also it will be going to take origin from anterior surface of below the oblique line of the water, that of the radius. So anterior surface of the water, that of the radius, below the oblique line, and this muscle also takes origin from the water coronoid process of that of the, you can say, ulna. It also takes origin from the what? Anterior surface of that of the intraosseous membrane, and this muscle also takes origin from the what? Part of the what? Medial epicondyle of the what? Lower end of the what? Bone humerus. From all these points of origin, this muscle runs straightway downwards, becoming a big musculature at its upper 3/4. While it will be running, so it will be entirely become tendinous and lies in the one synovial sheath. That synovial sheath is the what? Synovial sheath for flexor pollicis longus. Then it will be going to run down at the point where that lower end of the water, that of the forearm, will be there in front of the pronator quadratus with the what? Synovial sheath of its own, then runs behind the flexor retinaculum, become tendinous, and at last it will be going to get inserts at the base of distal phalanx of thumb. So this is what? The insertion. One thing one has to understand. Now this, you can say, flexor pollicis longus, even it takes origin from a few fibers, that of the what? Flexor digitorum superficialis as well as pronator teres, few muscle fibers takes origin from that in a very small quantity, or in a small few fibers which will be taking. That is for your information purpose. Now after having had insertion, now you have to tell about the what? Its relations. The relation of the flexor pollicis longus, in front it is related to skin, superficial fasciae, deep fasciae, cutaneous nerves, cutaneous vessels, and that its upper part, that of the pronator teres muscle, and then at its middle and at its lower part it is related to the what? Flexor carpi radialis as well as the what? Palmaris longus. So that will be there. Then flexor transversalis fasciae, that will be there in front. Now at the level of the water, that of the wrist, it is in front, it is related to, without doubt, or definitely that is what? The flexor retinaculum, or without question it will be there as a what? Flexor retinaculum. And at the level of the what? Insertion in front, it is related to all the thinner muscles. Now let us will see what you will be going to get behind to this muscle is the what that of the, or you can say first is the interosseous membrane. So this will be there, interosseous membrane, because it will be taking origin from that. Then you will be having an oblique line, that will be the partially. Then the what periosteum of the what that of the bone radius, and the what anterior surface of the radius, and the anterior surface of that of the partially coronoid process of the what that of the ulna. Then at the level of the wrist behind it is related to the what pronator quadratus. Then at the point of the insertion behind it is related to the base of the digital phalanx of the thumb. So this is what the relation behind. Now what is the nerve supply for this? Nerve supply for the what flexor pollicis longus is totally by the anterior interosseous nerve, anterior interosseous nerve, which is a branch coming from the median nerve, with having the same root values for the what that of the whatever you will be going to get for the what the interosseous nerve supply for the what flexor digitorum profundus, that is what is the lateral part. Lateral part will be supplied by anterior interosseous nerve, which is a branch of the median nerve, but medial part of flexor digitorum profundus is supplied by the what ulnar